Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining GSC Systems presentation on on-demand operational training, hands-on anywhere, anytime. My name is Travis Ducro. I'm the Director of Global Business Development for GSC Systems. And I want to thank quickly RefComm for putting on this event with the COVID-19 situation. Having virtual events has become challenging, and we are excited to participate and sponsor in this event. To meet other people and hopefully tell people about who we are as well. So a quick abstract I want to cover, and I promise this will be the only slide that I read today, but I want to cover several areas regarding our approach to on-demand simulation-based training. So this presentation will cover several areas. We want to establish structured learning paths towards specific training outcomes with the use of e-learning modules, assessments, simulations, and then competency assessments at the end of the module. Delivering assessments at each point of the learning path through a variety of assessment types, including interim assessments that adjust that path of learning, and then the final assessments for delivering digital certificates. I want to discuss the value of cloud-based delivery as it relates to ease of access to training from any location without special tools, installation, and IT overhead. The discussion will also include some of the current challenges of delivery of various types of learning content, such as interactive 3D content. This type of training delivery has been adopted in other industries, such as oil and gas, and in this time of COVID-19, the ability to deliver training to workers at home has been invaluable. The ability to run simulation scenarios either independently or with this instructor intervention has provided companies with great flexibility. Combining simulation exercises with objective critical thinking exercises provides competency assessments needed when students are learning asynchronously. So a little bit about me. My name is Travis Ducro, as I mentioned before. I've had 3 years with GSC and about 10 years in the oil and gas industry. My education is in chemical engineering, which I received from the University of Cincinnati. And I've worked for a number of different companies in my time. The first two, Toyota Motor Manufacturing and Duke Energy, were on an interim co-op basis, but I still think it's important to highlight, especially Toyota's manufacturing principles that have been adopted widely in the industry, and Duke Energy as it's a major utility in their respective industry as well. Parker Hannifin is another company that I've worked for, a very large, I think now $16 billion company. We often would say it's the largest company you've never heard of, making industrial valves, fittings, manifolds for the oil and gas industry. And then finally, with a company called Stress Engineering Services, most relating to consulting with the oil and gas industry. So first, let's talk about some challenges to learning and development program design. And this is all from Harvard Business Review on business education, reported that 75% of managers are dissatisfied with their entire L&D function. 70% of employees don't really have the mastery of skills needed to do their jobs. Some would say that's phoning it in or fake it till you make it. 12% of employees apply new skills learned through L&D programs, so not much of an adoption rate on the skills that are gained within their own corporate L&D. And 25% of respondents believe training measurably improved performance. So what are the misalignments? We find misalignments in many different things: purpose, timing, content, retention. Gaining the signals and credits versus useful job skills. Planning according to their schedules versus when it's needed for the job. Maybe the content's not directly relevant and it does not match the real world needs. And then finally, retention, which arguably is the most important, in that most things are quickly forgotten and not reinforced for performance. Digging a little deeper, especially into GSC's paradigm, challenges to the virtual training environment. It's easy for students to get distracted, not only in their jobs and a work from home situation, but especially during autonomous training. How many times have you found yourself in the required corporate compliance training, just skipping through and not really paying attention to the content that's presented? The content must be engaging, interactive, and delivered in short sessions. We as adults arguably have shorter attention spans than the children we once were. And so we have to put things in digestible format that's quickly and easily consumed, but then also retained. If observed behavior is critical to verifying competency, that's very hard to execute virtually. You know, the teamwork or the three-way comms, or in this case, a board operator that's working with 4 or 5 different people on the board. Those things are very challenging to execute virtually. So what does GSC recommend? A lean learning program approach. Lean learning uses effort only when it's needed, improving the outcomes and cutting waste. We need to learn the core need for the job. This is the 80-20 rule. 80-20 rule being 80% of the knowledge captured can be taught in 20% of the time. We need to apply it to real-world situations immediately. And we need to provide immediate feedback to ensure and refine understanding and then repeat the cycle. They say in a recent report from Harvard Business Review, when new information isn't applied, people forget about 75% of it in 6 days. So lean learning as an evolving program. We need to start with defining a shared goal and engage a champion to foster that innovation. So that could be a corporate L&D manager, that could be the most senior board operator, that can just be anyone, but it has to be someone that is going to be engaged in the task specifically. Teach the core, teach what people need. Again, the 80-20 rule. And by doing that, create aha moments. Apply it to real world situations immediately. Allow them to use the information that they've just gained to see some sort of tangible deliverable. And then finally, provide immediate feedback to refine that understanding. And feedback doesn't necessarily correlate with this question was answered wrong, but it's also when you answer the question right. We find that in some instances that, guessing in some of these competency assessments can happen. And we want to make sure that people understand why they got that answer right, because maybe they may not know. Finally, we measure versus the objectives. Did we accomplish what we need to accomplish? Were the skills gained in that particular training environment? We evaluate the learnings via competency assessments, via various things, and we adjust. And from there, we repeat. So what is an effective learning and strategy platform? Well, first, it's well organized and outcome-based. And by doing that, you're not going to confuse your participant, and you're going to allow them to see the outcome of their actions. It incorporates virtual activities. In our case, we use simulation exercises and gaming type components to see how well did you do, or in some cases where it's allowed, how well did you score against your peers? We make it accessible from anywhere. For us, in our Envision On Demand, it's cloud-based. You don't need a specific set of software. You just need access to an internet browser and an internet connection. Offer the ability to adjust and extend content, reusable learning content. So in this case, being able to incorporate your own plant-specific or your own process-specific content into the training deliverable so that there is a connection between the training exercises and what you may see on the actual plan itself. Then provide reporting at a high level to those who need it in dashboard type format if they wish, or in a detailed level for the more specific learning managers that need to understand the outcomes. So what are some of these learning elements? Well, there's the training objectives, right? The knowledges, the skills, and the attitudes. That goes into the competencies, and we would call this the taxonomy. Feeding into that will be the content itself. So the training lesson, in this case with Envision On Demand, the CBLs and the simulations. Driving that, you make sure to have a detailed description of everything, all the way from the highest level of the name to various objectives, expected outcomes, all the way down to models and scenarios that feed into that lesson itself. The assessments, also are parts of the competencies. So in various levels, we have small Q&A, exercises, predictions, and skill competency scenarios. This drives into the learning outcomes. All of this is combined in our training management portal that is fed by our tutorial system and our simulation system. So what is GSC Solution for cloud-based learning? The better operation comes through knowledge and composure. And that's where GSC's Envision platform of computer-based tutorials and simulations come into play. We provide a sound understanding of equipment and process fundamentals, understanding cause and effect, and experiencing a wide variety of plant upsets in a safe, simulated environment to give people the confidence they need to calmly employ troubleshooting skills to recover a plant or safely shut it down. All of our tutorials are course-based focus, and by course-based, we mean they are at a high level, just basic process fundamentals, all the way down to specific unit operations that you might find in the plant. We, as we discussed earlier, in an effective learning management system, offer a blended learning approach. Combining computer-based tutorials and simulations, we are able to deliver this through the cloud for maximum flexibility. Quickly, GSC is actually backed by over 50 years of experience. Our anniversary was last week, or I guess in this case, when this will be shared, last month. And we have a backlog of experience in simulation and training that is unmatched. So the on-demand learning platform. Again, this is a course-based program combining computer-based learning and tutorials. So we call these CBLs. These will be narrated by a narrator. The content is offered via many different methods in the case of text-based, animation-based, all with full high fidelity sound to go with these tutorials. These tutorials were developed with industry subject matter experts at various high-level refining organizations and consulting firms. We also offer high-fidelity generic simulation models. GSC has the capability to build plant-specific simulation models, but we feel that when it comes to a generic approach, we are oftentimes teaching the concepts rather than just having operators regurgitate a procedure. We want to be able to train the student on the plant next door, not just the plant and the process that they're working on at that time. It's all built using a structured approach focused on competencies and learning outcomes, from a very fundamental understanding of equipment to system processes and advanced concepts. Here's a brief demonstration of how we integrate content, in this case for the compressor course. We start with CBTs or CBLs that are basic 1 hour on the high level parts of a compressor. We start with an overview of what a compressor even is. And we talk about different types of centrifugal compressors that you might see. We talk about key components within the compressor, lube and seal oil, and the drive steam turbine, and then talk about compressor performance. From there, we apply the CBL content in a simulation-based model learning environment. The objectives are to learn basic controls, to learn protection and interlock systems, and to be able to identify malfunctions. From there, we go into actual simulation model exercises. We control a unit via anti-surge control, turbine speed control, and suction drum pressure control. From there, we have a competency assessment. These training performance scenarios are not just in the form of basic true, false, multiple choice question and answers. We indicate and provide the trainee with performance scenarios that measure safely their ability to operate the compressor itself. From there, we moved on to more advanced concepts. Pre-startup operation, startup operation, shutdown operation, and emergency shutdown operation. We provide simulation model learning, move into simulation model exercises, and again, perform a competency assessment for the student. The idea is that we provide structured learning paths for the student instead of a full free-form simulation-based operation. The scenario-based simulations guiding the student from basically the known to the unknown, moving from normal operating exercises, just basic, to troubleshooting. What's going on in the plant? How do I take a timely corrective action? To critical thinking exercises. What actually happened there? What is the root cause? To identify the issue and then conclude on the appropriate action. And then finally, as we've mentioned, the competency assessments at the end. The whole idea behind simulation-based learning is that we provide a safe environment for a student to fail, for a student to mess up. In this case, we're providing them with the ability to essentially make errors without having to worry about the sanctity of their job. So the whole idea here is that we want to improve the critical thinking of the operator in their environment. We want them to be able to predict the impact of parameters on the system by answering multiple choice questions, and then run the simulation exercise to observe what happened. This gives us the ability to measure the student's comprehension without the need for live or virtual instructor observation. This is all again, pushed into a learning management system that can be driven into by the respective parties. We then have the student document and observe changes in the system, and then analyze it and analyze feedback to ensure accuracy of thought process. This provides them with a mental model of the process where indications are located in the process. So this is an example of these critical thinking exercises, prediction sheets that we just spoke on. First, you have a learning objective at the top. In this case, gas and liquid flow. We want to understand the differential pressure relationship. We're going to identify a specific change that will occur in the system. In this case, the pressure is decreased by 20% at a constant valve opening. You then are given the ability to select an impact. What is going to happen at these particular locations, in this case tags, to the gas flow, the nitrogen flow in the gas, and the gas supply temperature. And then we visualize this indication in the process flow or the simulated environment. Immediately after that, you're given an observation sheet. So you're able to make a prediction, you run the sim exercise, and then you observe outcomes. So it will highlight your predictions and then what actually should have happened. There's immediate feedback given in the analysis, whether you got the question right or wrong. We provide a feedback loop as to what and why the change occurred. So envision and how we features supporting lean learning. Some strategy concepts, minimum learnable units, some of our features, our library of tutorials and simulations, our structured courses, and our custom scenarios. Now, how are we going to expand on that soon? The ability to expose subcomponents of these e-tutorials and drive down and only feature what is actually necessary for the student. Another strategy concept, assessments, as we spoke on earlier. What do we provide? Tutorials, quizzes, course assessments, prediction sheets, and scenario targets. What do we want to see in the future? The ability to build our own quizzes and the ability to completely customize your prediction sheet for your particular application. Blended learning. How do we feature that? A large highlight, and one that is especially impactful for the COVID-19 situation, is our instructor trainee mode. Instructor trainee mode allows people to log in from any parts of the world on the same simulated exercise and actually have the instructor run it. We can actually remove some of the instructor type options from the trainee so that they cannot change battery limits or malfunctions. And the instructor has the full ability to create a learning environment with different malfunction scenarios that the trainee might see. Finally, gamification. Some of our features, again, the prediction sheets that we talked about, and then the interactivity of the scenario. What we'd like to see in the future, where it's allowed, a leaderboard, points and badges, and then additional prediction sheet customization. So whether you are using our Envision On-Demand software or any software or any learning management approach, we have some suggestions for corporate implementation. Phase 1 is to utilize a proven learning content platform as the first and quick step. Using an on-demand platform, especially in COVID-19, is great when they have relevant courses for you. And then to also present a common approach for all users and sites so that there's homogeny. Once you have that homogeny, you collect that feedback and adjust the strategy. Phase 2, collaborate with your internal stakeholders and outside academics. Expand into a standard competency-based program. Improve your content into critical thinking exercises. Integrate with other learning objects and integrate with an LMS so that you can measure everything that's going on. And then phase 3, implement the enhanced program, measure the outcomes, publicize the successes so that the workforce can see how good the program can be, and strengthen the partnership with local communities and educations to keep enhancing your own platform. So summary, we always say, consider a lean learning training plan, build that custom learning plan and focus on core learning and sequenced to apply real world scenarios. Engage with your early adopters for creative solutions, and then use all available tools and resources to build, test, and adjust your strategy. Consider on-demand training. Again, with on-demand based training, especially with Envision, you're going to see a 20%, basic 80% reduction of cost versus live training. You can train anywhere at any time, and you can learn the basics in a self-paced fashion. A quick summary for Envision. Again, 20% of the cost of live training, can do it any time and can do it fast paced. We offer structured courses with predefined simulation exercises that allow your student to go at his own pace. We also have critical thinking exercises that give you the ability to examine the effects of change, and then can also have testing controlled by the instructor itself. In a free-form environment or open access, students can practice operations and troubleshooting with generic dynamic simulations. The new knowledge not utilized within 72 hours is likely to be lost, so we often say that training should be followed with a shift. Work with the full tour tutorials and full simulation models that are similar to your plant, or maybe not, maybe on a different process to have some cross-training. Some final key takeaways. Visual learning has a role in the future, even beyond the pandemic. And I mean, virtual learning has a role in the future, even beyond the pandemic. Virtual learning must be interactive and engaging for adoption from your students, whether they be board operators, engineers, or just various functions within the organization. Outcomes need to be measured through a variety of assessment methods. An unmeasured outcome is no outcome at all. You need to pay attention to adoption and to quickly adjust your strategy to overcome any technical or just resource issues. Again, I want to thank RefComm for the ability to give this presentation on lean learning and structured learning concepts and allow us to showcase our Envision On-Demand software. I'll now open up the floor to any questions that you guys may have, and we hope to be a partner with you soon. Thank you.